Hey YouTube, so today we're basically doing a super tune-up on my new toy, my '01 Corvette. It's just a base model Corvette. It was a great deal, so I bought it. My Monte Carlo took a crap, so anyhow, it's got about 110,000 miles on it, and it runs kind of rough. I'm hoping that's because someone's put a cam in it at some point. I mean, for the most part, it looks stock, but I did notice that it's got EV6 fuel injectors in it, so somebody's done some work to it at some point. But anyhow, some of the upgrades we're doing is LS1s have this is basically a Ls1 Rocker Arm. I bought these on eBay. They've got the comp cams captured Trunnion upgrade in them, so your needle bearings can't fall out, which is, I guess, a common failure item on these when you drive the piss out of them and, you know, high revs and whatnot. And if the needle bearings fail, they basically scatter throughout your engine. So we're going to alleviate that right now by putting these in. I just ordered them complete off eBay from a company. They had tons of sales and stuff on it. I'll put the dude's ad on the video right here. Basically they're 200 bucks. The kit's like 130 or whatever from comp, but then you have to go and take your other ones off, press them out, do all that kind of stuff. I just ordered them already done. Anyhow, it looks really clean. The part looks like almost completely brand new. And they say these rockers are just a really good design from the factory, and since this is going to be my daily driver, I'm not going to go insane with it. So anyhow, so we're upgrading to those so we don't have to worry about that. And like I said, since it's got 100,000 miles on it, we're going to do a super tune-up on it. These are Msd Coils, and these have the multi-spark ignition built into them. So basically all you have to do is just bolt them on. Here's a little bit of stuff you have to do. I think there's a spacer you have to put in and a jumper and some other stuff because these cover multiple applications. So we're doing that. We're putting in a set of Msd Iridium spark plugs. Let's see, where's the part number? There's the part number. Got it. And we're also upgrading with a set of these 10.4 millimeter Taylor wires. These are probably a little overkill for what we're doing, but you know, hell, they're about the stock price of a stock set of wires, so why not? So anyhow, that's what we're doing. So anyhow, I'm going to show you guys how. I know it looks really daunting when you open the engine up, but I'm going to show you how easy this really is. So anyhow, to remove your valve cover on driver's side, I think you can remove the valve cover without messing with your alternator. We'll find out. But anyhow, first steps first. Take your valve cover or your engine cover piece off. It just pops off. You just got to wiggle it a little bit. It comes off. Unplug your coil pack harness, and then take and unhook or unplug all of your spark plug wires. Don't worry, you can't put them in the wrong order because there's one per cylinder. If you screw that up, you probably shouldn't be doing this. Now, I know this probably looks like a whole bunch of crap, but you're going to see it's really not that bad. Now, you don't have to take all of these bolts out. We're going to change all these coils out for the Msd coils that I showed you before. We're going to replace all of these, and there's a little bit to that because we got to put some spacers and stuff in, but to remove this whole coil assembly comes out as an assembly. Here, this is what the other side looks like. It just goes on that way on the other side, but see it, all the wires and stuff are included. You don't have to worry about unplugging each one of it all comes off together. And there's just 5 bolts that hold it in. The back one's gonna be a pain, but I'm just using a 10 millimeter wobble socket. One, two, 3, And one more right here, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to that. Okay. Yeah, the last one here is here, very in the very front. We managed to get it out without removing the alternator or the alternator bolt. If you take this bolt out, it'd probably be a little easier. As we were taking it out, the socket actually contacted the back of that bolt. But anyhow, that's loose. So now, what did I miss? Oh, I still got one. I left it in there so it wouldn't fall. Now, will it come out? Yep. Just slides right out. If you take this fuel rail connector off, it might make it a little easier. And there's your whole coil pack assembly. Not so scary now. Okay, now looks like we can kind of get away with not taking absolutely everything off. Got one PVC connector there, just pull, comes off. Then you got 4 8mm bolts. Anyhow, and it would help if you're patient enough to wait for your motor to cool off before you do this. But I'm not patient, so be careful not to damage your wiring harness while you're taking it out. So just be a little gentle with it. And there it is. Valve covers out. So now that we've got it disassembled and we're down to the rockers, we don't want to just take and pull all these rockers off. What we want to do is actually we want to use the intake opens, exhaust closes theory. And you can tell which, if you don't already know, which I'm hoping that you know this, seeing as what you're doing. This is probably a little involved for someone who doesn't know anything about cars. But anyhow, what we're going to do is we're going to take and open your intake valve. We're going to bump the motor over. You don't have to worry about it starting, obviously, because it has no spark plug ignition at all, because it's completely unplugged and there's no spark plug, so it won't actually crank. But we're just going to bump the motor over with the starter until number 1 cylinder opens up. And once the intake starts opening up, we know the exhaust valve is completely closed and on the back side of the cam. So then we'll take and unbolt this bolt, pull it off, put the new one on, torque it down to 22 foot-pounds, and then it's set. There's no valve lash adjustments like on your old school small block Chevys where you got to take and run it down to 0 lash and a quarter turn pass and all that stuff. No, these you just tighten down to 22 foot-pounds, you're done. That's it. Simple. That's one reason why I just went with a Trunnion upgrade rather than putting a full roller tip and all that other stuff in it. Like I said, we're not going that far with this motor at this point in time. After this motor burns up, then we'll probably go and we'll put long tube headers on it and a whole trick flow head, intake cam, everything, and really do this thing up and probably stroke it as well. Alright, we're going to bump the engine over so you can see it. I already did it, but I figured I probably ought to do it again so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Alright, go ahead and bump it. See, like I said, the intake valve's already open on this side, but we're just going to go all the way through rotation. Crank it a little bit. Alright, bump it, bump it, bump it, bump it. Alright, see how you watch the intake valve open? That means the exhaust valve is closed. So we're going to go ahead and loosen this, I believe it's an 8mm bolt, change it out. Luckily on these, I don't think there's any issue of worrying about dropping a push rod, but I'm still going to be careful just to make sure, because like I said, I'm 99% sure you can't drop a push rod on these, but just in case, I'm going to be extra safe. That way I don't have to go ahead and pull all the other crap apart, because that would really suck. Alright. Damn, it's tight. 22 foot-pounds, that sure was hellaciously tight. Alright. I'll just pull it on out. Okay, so this is your factory rocker. And you see it's, I mean, it has a cap on it. That works. I mean, it's basically like a full roller rocker, except it doesn't have a roller tip on it, which is a good design. But if this fails, all little needle bearings that are in here, like I said, will scatter throughout the engine. So anyhow, that's your normal piece. And like I said, I'm not going to get into how you change these out. I mean, this one's actually got a little bit of play in it. So this motor did have kind of like a slight tick to it before, and I'm wondering if this might be it. Hopefully I don't find one of these that's just completely destroyed, but I didn't see any. So anyhow, so basically all I gotta do is just pull that out, put in the new one, and drop it in. I'm gonna clean these though with a little brake clean and put a little assembly lube on them just to be extra safe, because I'm paranoid like that. But anyhow, that's basically the difference in the two. Captured to captured. And the bearing that actually goes in here on the trunnion is captured as well. So it's contained on both sides. So there's no chance that even if it does fail that the bearings will fall out.
Yeah.
Okay, one more little thing. I mean, this should go without saying, but just in case. See how it's inset here? That's so your bolt sits in there flat. Make sure you don't tighten it up like that. I really hope that whoever's watching this isn't stupid enough to do that, but you never know. So we're going to go back on, and I'm just going to put a little assembly lube on here just because I don't want to put them on here completely dry. I mean, they kind of feel like they got a little oil on them, but I don't know how much oil the guy used. So I'm just going to put a little bit of assembly lube on the push rod, and I'm going to just put a little assembly lube on this just to give it that, make sure there's no dry startup issues. Put a little on the valve stem, and just put it back in place. Okay, now that we're done doing the first exhaust valve, we're going to bump it over. Remember, intake opens, exhaust closes. So once the exhaust is completely open, the intake should be completely closed. All right, go ahead and bump it, bump it, bump it, bump it. All right, exhaust valve's open, so now the intake's closed. We'll do the intake side, same procedure. Okay, so now that we're done changing out those rockers out, now we're going to go ahead and upgrade the coils to these Msd coils. To do that, just got to pull this little keeper guy out. Pops out carefully. Get the harness unplugged. Take your time with this. Try not to break it. Just gonna take a little small screwdriver here. Pry in between the base just a little bit. These things have been on there for 110,000 miles without being messed with, so it's only obvious that it's going to be hard to take them off. But I don't want to break them, so that's why I'm going to take my time. So, thank God for editing. Alright, turn it off. Okay, after a few cuss words and 10 minutes later, got it off. But I didn't break it, so anyhow, I'll take 2 tins out. Keep in mind where these tall ones go, because you're going to put the new ones in place. They're a little longer. Pull your coil out. Make your new coil. While I got it off, these coils go for a large bunch of different applications. So anyhow, on this particular application, we're using these little jumpers. They just plug in on each one. If you don't plug that in, it won't run. And now we're just going to go and use our new hardware. Tighten it down. Make sure you don't over tighten it. then just plug your factory harness connector back in. There we go. Click. Done. Then go ahead and reinstall factory keeper. Click. That's it. Just continue that through the rest of them. And that's it, and then it just bolts back in factory location, and then you're upgraded to your new MSD ignition system with multi-spark discharge. Okay, so we've got new coils on, new rockers are on, we're out of daylight, and we're still waiting on the second set of spark plugs because I messed up and I only ordered one set of spark plugs. I ordered 4 and I needed to order 2, you know, that kind of deal. But anyhow, they'll be here tomorrow, and we got more stuff we're going to do on it this weekend. But anyhow, you guys probably, I'm waiting for the hate mail. Why didn't you clean the coil pack bracket up? Well, for one, it doesn't show. But anyhow, we just plugged the factory spark plug wires back in. We still haven't taken the plugs out. We're just going to fire it up and see how it runs. Wait for a second for it to warm up to see if it's going to actually idle smoother than it did before. It sounded a little rough when we first fired it up, but that's because the whole time we're bumping it over and everything, the injectors are firing even though there's no spark plug wires going, so I got to clean the spark plugs up a little bit. But the lifted tap is gone. That's nice. This thing used to have this really annoying little tick 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 tick. Now all I can hear is the injector firing. Way better. The engine's running way smoother than it did before. Before it sounded like it had a real mild cam in it, and it was like mist. But I kind of figured it just had a mist to it. But it's just smooth as glass now. Well, anyhow, we're gonna go take it out, go for a road test.